So make sure that it doesn't fall when you go from the tank to the table, because it'll hit the floor. And then you gotta feed it to the birds. And each one of these pieces is basically worth $5 and maybe even as much as $10. Nah, like $5. But still, it's crazy. And we want to search it really good before we start cleaning it out, because then all these little nooks and crannies, crevices and whatnot, little pieces tend to stick in there. You just don't want it to have any folds, like, I don't know, like if it was like that or something, or that. Just want it to be flat, not necessarily stretched out or anything, just flat. You can even kind of like push it up against the next one, but it can't be over top. If it's over top, then it won't cook right, or it won't cook all the way through. It'll look gray instead of red. And ideally it looks red and not burnt black or whatever. But we'll get to that in the next tutorial. Each one of these screens takes 7-8 minutes, hopefully not 10 minutes a screen, because there's 12 screens, and that would be a full 2 hours just to fill the smoker before smoking it for an hour and a half to 2 hours. And it makes the process even longer. Since this is already a skinny piece that I don't really want to go hunting for later, I'm just gonna fill up that space there. Sometimes it's like magic. It's like if you believe in a higher power, you gotta kind of stop and say, "Thank you, Lord." Oh, see? That perfect piece was coming next. Anyway, that one fits there pretty good. Might want to save this one for somewhere straighter and use another or triangular piece to fill that up so it doesn't start getting all wonky. You fit more when it's nice and evenly tiled like this. Like, sometimes flip them over, you get the right shape you need to keep filling this way, and I'll show you what happens when we get to this end if we get overhangs or whatever. Sometimes we'll just save pieces. So ideally we fill up the space with all the big ones that we have from the pile. And like this one just about goes to the edge. Maybe a little scrap piece will go in there. It's always a good idea to leave space for something else to fit. If it's got a really long tapered end or something. I'm not pressing it into the screen really, I'm just kind of like tapping it out. I'm almost like fluffing it like a sheet. Because if you press it hard into the screen, it might make it harder to peel off later. Ideally, you can just pick them right up off the screen, rub down with tallow, but sometimes they want to stick, or they like, if they're pressed into the screen, they'll mold to the screen and hold on, grab to the screen. And if you set little pieces on the end, sometimes the rack itself will be touching the piece and it will hold to the rack instead of the screen, and you'll lose pieces off the back end if you put, like if you lay it like this hanging off that edge instead of like this. Sometimes I've seen it where it tends to want to pull off that end of the screen. What do we got going on here? This should work. Might fit like that. You know, you could stretch this out like that, but then it might become a little dagger when you go to bag it up, and it'll poke through the bag. So like a tiny little scrap piece like that, you might fold over or wrap back in. So this piece is kind of stringed out at the end, strung out. You might even just cut it in half because it's kind of a weird piece anyway. There's a little skinnier piece, but not skinny enough to not hang over too much. So let's see. Might be able to pull off some more of this and have a scrap go in here. And see, I learned that this marinade is ultra sticky and a pain to clean later. So, or you know, if it dries out on that knife for the next 3, 4, 5 hours, 6 hours till we're done smoking all this. And it's almost too short. We wanna, yeah, that piece. We're gonna cut this piece, leave that fatty. I like those big fat pieces. I'm trying not to cut through the paper. I'm just trying to, because again, one more thing to clean. It's so nice when you can just pull all this mess of a task right off of this table and get back to cutting steaks or whatever you need. Sometimes I'll even peel this up. If I'm having to work here, shift this over a little bit. I'm thinking I want even like a slightly, even if it's 6x6 larger table, like 6 inches, but even like a foot larger would be crazy back here. Make it a little tight, like everything flows pretty well now, but I think I could get away with a 6-inch bigger length and width. And then you'd be able to be doing this here, or even setting up another space to do this. We might start utilizing the back room more for like slicing bacon and wrapping bacon and doing jerky. Anyway, blabbing. And we're just, if we have any hanging over the edges, we're just trying to make sure we're not catching those. Like, can you kind of see where that one wants to grab? Hopefully we can. I'm balancing it here now. We can either slide that screen over as far as it'll go that way, and mainly we just don't want them to be touching. Like here we have just a bad case of one overlapping this screen too much this way. It's better to have them overlapping on, I would say, the outsides than the insides, because these might cook together and then they'll dry together, and when you're pulling the screens out in an hour and a half after starting the smoker, they might fall on the ground because they'll slide one another off, and that's annoying. Cool, that's really it. I didn't get to show you what happens when we get to the end with some overhangs, so I don't know, basically you just, if you get to the end and all you have is space enough to fill things like this, you can cut their ends off, and honest to God, a lot of the times those little pieces go back and fill in perfectly the little holes that just didn't work out perfectly from laying out abstract pieces of, or shaped pieces of jerky. Because like if you were just to lay it flat, you get some of those, but ideally we'll figure a way around leaving those little holes for efficiency, because we got a lot of jerky to smoke, and we don't need to be just smoking air. We gotta smoke meat. See, like this should be an outside on the left side, and that way I'll treat the rest of this rack as clean on this side, and we can leave some overhangs on this side, but you still got to be careful sliding the rack out, or the screen out, so that the vertical bars on the rack don't grab on to the jerky. Oops. One side's gotta be clean, eh? Yeah, look at that. And see, they're not overlapping, they are touching, kind of pressing it together a little too much, so try and space those out. Sometimes you gotta fluff them a little, but that should be great. This screen's flying. They're all fitting perfectly in the next available space. It's better, I think, to leave the oblong or off, not squared off end open, so that you have more options with it, rather than leaving a hole or a gap. Leaving an air space, an air pocket, where there should be meat. Whoa. And this is the first of 2 rackfuls of jerky from this batch of jerky, so usually right after I finish smoking, or right after I start smoking this first half of the batch, I will come empty the rest of the jerky out, scrape around all the edges and everything, fill one of those bins, and I can't see where I'm looking at. Anyway, fill one of those bins and blast out and scrub down this awesome vacuum tumbler machine. It is a pain to clean out anytime, but boy oh boy, you leave this jerky marinade overnight to be washed out tomorrow. Big mistake. God. Dude, you gotta scrub it out. So it is glued on there. Not caked on. Glued. But, well, just a little bit of sugar in this marinade, so that's the way it goes. See, that's kind of like, not ideal, but you know, you got some space to sort of stretch it out this way. That makes it better. It's a sort of weird piece as it is, so you'll know when we pull these out of the smoker, like I'm filling these racks, and I always think when I'm pulling it out, it's like, man, why didn't I fill it up more? So these suckers shrink. Okay, we gotta do some kind of weird stuff with this piece. It's not going to bag up well, but we might just tear it and make it into a sample piece or something. I need to figure out, we need to stick like a sample bin out there or something next to the vending machines. Some samples, some more signage. Gotta figure out what percentages are gonna support what, but so much is gonna support the Spruce Healing Initiative. So much is gonna support the Middle Park Fair and Rodeo. So much is gonna support the, what is it called? Middle Park? Grand County 4-H? Anyway, gotta support the kids. Those kids is. Alright, do we want to fill a strip there or just maybe leave it? Let's see what we get out of this next little grab. Man, that was a pretty close one. I think to be serving out of the vending machine, I'm going to try to smoke this batch as though it's for the vending machines, because I'm already stocked, maybe to last through the weekend until we can make more. For the regular jerky fridge, but to get all these bags to exactly 0.5 or 1 pound, I feel like we're gonna have to have a lot of little pieces to, or skinny long pieces to dial it exactly in on the digital scale. You know what I mean? Oh shit, that piece is fucking long. Real nice, real nice. Alright. Okie dokie, good job, it fit perfectly. See, and I'm not pressing it down, I'm just like adjusting the wrinkles. And that's pretty darn full screen. Ooh, maybe I'll show you how we do the spicy with dirty hands. Nah. We'll just do a rack of regular. It's pretty well stocked on spicy. See, it all fits perfectly, so I know that if I keep it above, up in the air, above that end of the rack, and I'm supporting it as best I can with one arm, and as long as it sets on this side of the rack, it's gonna fit that side of the rack. So you just have to not worry and know that that vertical bar across the way can block it from setting in, so you got to be inside the vertical bars and let it plop down. It mostly just is bad news when you're doing beef sticks, and if this rack falls, it like cuts off the end of the beef sticks and makes a mess. But they're not too heavy if you're big and strong. Okay. We'll do another video on spicy, which is essentially all it is being clean about using your dirty hands, and we've got a dedicated jerky spicy bucket, and just sprinkle it on, give it a little sprinkle.